Hi everyone and welcome to the Musical Theatre Masterclass Taking Apart a Song. I'm really excited to get started and to give you some tips on how you can get your musical theatre performances ready for the stage. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Hannah and I work at Burnley Youth Theatre as the Education Coordinator, but my main background and specialism in performance is indeed musical theatre. I studied musical theatre at degree level as a joint honours degree with drama, and then I moved on to my master's degree and studied at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland for 1 year. Whilst I was there, I learned so many tips and tricks on how to pull apart a song and get it ready so that you feel comfortable on stage and also that you are performing to the best of your ability. I'm really excited to share some of those tips with you right now, but before we do that, I want to tell you why I love musical theatre and why it's so important to me. Musical theatre is so important to me because it's something that I have gravitated towards as a form of expression. I love singing, I love music, and I love words and text. So putting that all together for me really allowed me to express emotion through song whenever or whatever I was feeling, and it allowed me to really let go. There are so many different types of musicals with so many different types of musical theatre songs that it's really hard to use the same techniques to pull apart one song from another. However, there are a couple that overlap and allow you to concentrate on the basics of pulling apart a song and what you can do before you delve further into your musical theatre practice. So why is pulling apart a song really important? Well, before you even set foot on stage, as you would with a Shakespeare monologue or a contemporary monologue or any devised piece, you need to really have delved into what you're performing. Pulling apart the musical theatre song is a great way to do that. It allows you to analyse all the different compounds that you find in a musical theatre song that gets you ready for your performance. Using the music and the text together allows you to really create an effective expression of emotion and storytelling. Like I said previously, you need to look at the music, you need to look at the text, you need to look at the voice and how you express what the song is trying to tell the audience. There are a few things that you need to do before you start to pull apart your musical theatre song. The first one is learn the song itself. Now, however you learn songs, whether that is through listening or looking at sheet music, it's always better to be prepared and know the song before you start to pull it apart. That way you can really play around with the different voice qualities and the different actions and the different ways that you can place breath in the song. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you either have the sheet music or a printed out version of the lyrics in front of you. Pulling apart a song, you want that physical piece of evidence in front of you that you can write on, that you can refer back to. So you've learnt the song, you've got your sheet music or your lyrics, and you have a pencil at hand. Now I'm ready to give you the first hot tip. So the first top tip I'm going to give you for pulling apart a musical theatre song is looking at the lyrics. The audience need to understand exactly what is being said. Now, you decide in this musical theatre performance whether you want to do it in the context of the show itself or whether you want to take it out of context and you want to do it as a standalone piece. You need to understand inside and out what those lyrics mean, where is the subtext, what your character is trying to say. My first piece of advice is to read the lyrics. That's right, read them. So read them without reading them out loud, read them in your head and really take them in, and maybe do that a couple of times. The next step to that is reading them out loud. I'm going to use the song Watch What Happens from Newsies to demonstrate how you would read out your song lyrics. Write what you know, so they say, all I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. This is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. So I used the very first verse and few lines of the song to demonstrate there how we would read aloud the lyrics of our musical theatre song. Now, I don't know about you, and maybe you don't know that song at all, but I bet you noticed that I was actually reading those words out loud and speaking them in rhythm. I was speaking them how the song is and how it should be and how it's written in the music. That's crazy because that's not how we speak. We need to make sure that when we are focusing on speaking these lyrics and this text, that we do it in a way that is naturalistic, that we would normally speak it, because that way we can find where the breath naturally falls in the song. And that's something that we can implement when we're singing. Write what you know, so they say. All I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. Oh, this is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. Now again, I was still having a little bit of the rhythm when I was reading that through. I don't know if you could hear it, but I could definitely feel it in my body. And that is why when you're reading your lyrics out like a monologue and trying to make them naturalistic to see where the natural breath falls, you need to take at least 20 to 30 minutes of doing this out loud so that you can get yourself out of saying it in that rhythm. Let's try it one more time. Write what you know, so they say. Well, I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. Oh, this is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. Now, there is still a little hint of rhythm in there, but I know that once you practice this enough, you'll get out of that rhythm. You may even find that sometimes there's a rhythm that still kind of exists, but it flows naturally. And that's all we want. We want a natural flow of words and lyrics, a natural breath to show us how to then input that into the music and how we sing it. One thing to also consider, and we do this naturally when we speak anyway, is that when we have a new thought, we take a new breath. So whenever you're reading out your lyrics like a monologue, you want to feel where the new thoughts lie, and you want to write a line with your pencil to show in the text where you naturally found the new breaths and new thoughts. So for example, I'm going to put the lyrics right up here for the first part of the Newsy song that I've just been using as an example. Write what you know, so they say. All I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. This is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. When I did that, I spoke it completely in rhythm with no new thoughts because I took no new breaths. If I implement what I did previously with reading it as a monologue, taking a new breath every time I have a new thought, let's see what happens. Write what you know, so they say. All I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. This is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. Now that might seem a little bit embarrassing and a little bit cringy to you, but saying that out loud, even to a mirror, you'll be able to find where the new thoughts are, where your breath naturally falls, how it feels to say those lyrics in a naturalistic way. The next thing we need to do is we need to put that with the music and the singing, and we need to know how to put that into our voice and how to control our breath in a way that is naturalistic, just how we read it as a monologue. So let's see how it works with the music. Write what you know, so they say. All I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. This is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. You can absolutely take this further than what I'm taking it now. You can take real time to go through every single lyric, every single line, every single thought. You can take the time to pull it apart verse by verse. Now, once you've been able to speak the song like a monologue, pull apart the text, see where the breath naturally falls and implement that into your song, you can then start to look at the emotion and the storytelling behind the song. The way that I choose to do this in a musical theatre performance is quite different to the way that I approach an acting piece of text. I use actions. Actions are something that was invented by Stanislavski as part of his naturalistic acting practice. I don't personally use Stanislavski's technique of adding actions when I am acting just a standalone piece of text from a contemporary or a Shakespeare performance. I feel like it really inhibits what you can naturally choose to do and how spontaneous you can be as an actor. However, I do believe that adding it to a musical theatre song really can help you to portray the emotion through your voice as well as through the way that you act with your physical body. So what is an action? An action is adding a verb or an emotion to a line or to a part of a song so that you can clearly demonstrate and communicate effectively with the audience the emotion that you want them to feel. It makes it clear emotionally what your character is trying to get across or what they are really truly feeling, and can sometimes then translate really easily into the audience. You can add multiple layers by using multiple verbs and emotions for different lines. And then, like I said previously, that influences the way you physically act in your body, and it also affects the way that you portray the emotion through your voice. When you get the emotion into your voice and into your body, the two connect and can influence each other really nicely and allow you to really demonstrate the song and act the song naturalistically and also really realistically so that the audience can really feel how you're feeling. This is a song I know really well and have done the text work that I mentioned in my top tip number 1 to the lyrics of this song, and I'm ready to now add an action. So the first line in the song is, I picked up your shirts this morning. I don't know why. I don't know why. To this particular line, I'm going to add the action, the verb of confusion, to be confused. So let's try that line with the music. I picked up your shirts this morning. I don't know why. I don't know why. In the context of the musical, this song is sang by the main female lead character. She recently lost her boyfriend and is talking about how she still goes to the places that they went to, and without him she doesn't know what her life is. She's still trying to figure that out. And in this particular line, I picked up your shirts this morning, I don't know why, she's confused because she knows that he's not there. She knows that he doesn't need his shirts picking up, but she still did it anyway. So let's move on to the next line. Mr. Reynolds said to say hello. I started to cry. I started to cry. Now this line itself is about how the next door neighbour, the guy who lives in her apartment block, is still asking after her boyfriend, and being asked to tell him good wishes from people has made her really sad. So I'm going to add another action and different verb to that, and that verb is going to be sadness. So let's see how that works with the music. Going from the confusion in the first line into sadness in the second. I picked up your shirts this morning. I don't know why. I don't know why. Mr. Reynolds said to say hello. I started to cry. I started to cry. Every place we've ever walked and everywhere we talked, I miss you. You never leave my mind. So much of you is left behind. So in that section, I did carry on and used the different actions and verbs that I've previously done when analysing this song, including disappointment, hurt, anger, and you can do them and use them so subtly that you can almost not feel them, but that they're there in the background. So for example, you can use sadness and anger in the same sentence. It's just a matter of practice and getting the right balance for you. Technique again will probably take you from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to more to get it right, depending on the song and depending on your level of knowledge already. But these are really basic tips that you can really take on board and use when pulling apart your musical theatre song. Top tip number 3. This is going to be the last tip that I'm going to be talking about today, because I think these 3 things that I've given you really allow you to roll with taking apart a musical theatre song. Top tip number 3. Can you tell I'm going a bit musical theatre mad right now? I've been recording this video for about 30 minutes and I am ready for top tip number 3. Top tip number 3 is about vocal quality. So we've talked about the text, we've talked about adding emotion into both our voice and onto the words themselves. Now we need to think about how we're using our voice, because of course we can act in our physical body and with our faces, but if our voice conveys no emotion at all, then we've not done our job. There are 3 main voice techniques that I'm going to go through with you today. The first one is speech, the second is legit, and the third one is twang. And I might even come across some belt and mix techniques as well that you might be able to use, depending on your ability level and how far you are already into your musical theatre practice. First, let's go through which different techniques there are. The speech technique is a way to speak the words conversationally but while still singing them. So in speech, typically there's no vibrato and your larynx is not tilted. It's in the position that it is when you are normally speaking. A great way to get into speech after singing for a while, after having warmed up, using vibrato or your legit or twang voice, you can use your vocal fry. And that is quite simply doing this. Now, you may or may not know how to do that, and that's completely fine. You do not need to be able to do that just now. And maybe I can do another video on going into these vocal techniques themselves. But that really allows you to just come back into your neutral voice and to have your larynx positioned as you would when you're normally speaking. The best way to describe a legit voice is a classical voice, and a musical that really captures that legit technique is Phantom of the Opera. When you hear any singing in Phantom of the Opera, most of the actors are using their legit voices. That's the kind of sound you need to picture when you're thinking of legit. And the last one is twang. Now this is usually what people sing in. They sing in a mix, they sing in twang with their larynx tilted. And that usually means that there's quite a nasally quality to it, but it's not too nasal that it's harsh. It allows you to sing in that kind of American accent, especially for us as British actors. And a great way to get your voice into tilted, larynx tilted, to be able to sing in a twang style is to go as if you're a sad puppy. Can you hear the difference? Yeah. All you need to do is tilt your larynx and lift the corners of your mouth up to really hit that twang. Now, another way to add vocal quality into your performances isn't just the vocal quality that you're using while you're singing, but your onsets and offsets. And these are how you approach notes and how you end them. There are loads of different kinds of onsets, but the main two that I usually focus on are aspirant, which is when you take a breathy approach or offset from your note, or a glottal onset. When thinking about all of these different vocal techniques and vocal qualities that you can add into your performance. So for example, I'm going to use With You from Ghost as my example of using a speech quality with an aspirant onset. So what I mean when I say that I'm going to use a speech quality and an aspirant onset, that means that when I go into the notes, they're going to be quite breathy. Instead of a clear start to a word, it's going to have a little bit of breath coming through it, almost as if I'm breathing out as I'm saying the word itself. And then with my vocal quality of speech, it just means that I'm going to say and sing the lyrics as if I was speaking them to you. So it's quite conversational, it's very natural. There is going to be little vibrato and little actual singing technique in there, although I will start to go into a bit of a mix with some legit towards the end of that verse to get me into the chorus, because it's easier when you're singing higher notes to add in those vocal qualities, as speech is quite hard when you're singing a very high. I picked up your shirt this morning, I don't know why, I don't know why. Mr. Reynolds said to say hello. I started to cry. I started to cry. So I'm going to show you a completely different example just to contrast that, because obviously you can use your aspirant onsets and offsets, you can use speech quality, you can use a little bit of legit when you're singing. It's great to pinpoint where you're doing these. I'm going to use twang, a little bit of speech quality, but some glottal onsets for Watch What Happens from Newsies, because this song is very punchy. It has a lot of fast words and it is very high energy. So you don't really want to be using a breathy technique to onset and offset your notes in this song. See what that glottal looks like. I like to think of a glottal as if you've got the sound here. That's what the sound looks like. Just to give you a little bit of language, as I said before, you know, an aspirant onset is putting the breath through it, but a glottal is when the glottal and the airstream is stopped in the vocal tract, in the glottis, to create that really harsh consonantal, which is a really hard word to say, consonantal sound. So let's see an example of Watch What Happens from Newsies using that glottal onset and offset, and also using a little bit of speech but mostly twang in terms of my singing and vocal qualities. Write what you know, so they say. All I know is I don't know what to write or the right way to write it. This is big, lady, don't screw it up. This is not some little vaudeville I'm reviewing. Now, as you can see, sometimes when I do the vocal quality and go through it, you can tend to lose some of that work that you've done previously when you've looked at the text, when you've found where the natural breath falls, and when you've done some of your actioning. So it really can take quite a long time for you to spend on one song. It's always good to remember that these things will never come overnight. They come with practice. It took me a very long time to be able to develop a routine on really how to pull apart a song in a way that was comfortable for me and allowed me to really look at the best ways in my performance practice. So I hope these tips have really helped you. So let's recap on these tips. Tip number 1 was to make sure that you look at the lyrics. Read it as a monologue, understand the text that you're saying, the words that are coming out of your mouth, and also say them naturally without the rhythm of the music, like a monologue, so that you find where the breath naturally falls and then you can input that into the way that you sing it. Tip number 2, actioning. Using Stanislavski's technique of placing a verb or an emotion or an action on a line to develop the physical embodiment of that emotion and to represent that emotion physically in your face, in your body, and then to influence how it comes out in your voice. Tip number 3, vocal quality. There are loads of these to choose from and you can do your very own research. There are amazing videos on YouTube that you can check out for singing tutorials, and if you have your own singing tutor, definitely ask them about it. But the best thing is that you can place these vocal qualities and keep practicing them and learning them and place them in your songs. The better that you get at them, and also the more of them that you learn. You can intertwine loads of different kinds of vocal qualities and techniques for onsets, for offsets, and also the vocal techniques that you use when you're actually singing the song, like speech quality, legit, twang, mix, belt. All of these things you can use at different times in a song to convey different emotions. For example, belt is something that I really use to show high energy, really high impact and quite intense emotions. Now, I'm not going to show you an example of belting just now. I left that one out on purpose because I think my neighbours might go a little bit mental if I start belting, considering I live with 2 houses either side of me. Vocal qualities really are an amazing way to be able to differentiate feelings in a song. So you've got that action. What action goes with what vocal quality? Can you use vocal qualities to influence the action that you are using? I hope you've come away from this with at least something new. If you've not and you knew all of these tips and tricks before, I hope that you've heard them in a different light and you've been able to apply them with understanding and a little bit more deeper knowledge now. I really hope to do another musical theatre masterclass very soon. It's very, very rare that I actually get to teach a musical theatre class, so I'm really excited that I've been able to put this together for you. Thank you so much for interacting with me in this masterclass. I would also really love to know what songs you've been delving into, and if you need any extra help in pulling apart the song, looking at context, looking at vocal qualities, or maybe you want to know a little bit more about actioning, then please let me know. I really look forward to hearing about some of your experiences, and I hope again that this masterclass has been useful. Remember the top 3 tips. Tip number 1, know your words, know your lyrics, understand your words and what you're saying. Find where that natural breath falls. Number 2, action. Find out the verbs, emotions and feelings that you want to put onto your lines and your new thoughts, and see if that can influence both your physical and your vocal expression. Number 3, make sure that you are using different vocal qualities and exploring all the different ways that you can onset and offset lines, as well as putting vocal qualities onto different verses of the song and seeing what you can do with your voice as well as your body. If you're not already following Burnley Youth Theatre on Facebook, go ahead and find us, Burnley Youth Theatre, that is our name. At Instagram we are at Burnley Youth Theatre. We have lots of content there. We also put on daily content on our Instagram, and obviously here at YouTube we would love it if you would subscribe, comment, share and like. Thank you for supporting us, and we really look forward to interacting with you online and seeing you engage with our content in the future. If there's anything that you want to see from us, please don't hesitate to send us an email or pop in a comment. We really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for giving this a watch, and I will hopefully see you all very soon. Prince who prepares. Oh, he's a very smart prince. He's a